Senator Billy.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Minister for Broadband, Communications and the Digital Economy, Senator Conroy. Can the Minister advise the Senate on the rate of take-up for Labor's national broadband network?
The Minister for Broadband, Communications and the Digital Economy, Senator Conroy.
Thank you, Mr President. Could I thank the Senator for her ongoing interest in the national broadband network and for the question of the interest in how the Australian people, Mr President, are embracing the opportunities created by the NBN. Of the many myths, Mr President, that is being peddled by those opposites, it's that Australians neither want nor need high-speed broadband. Well, Mr President, this story gets peddled by the media as claims that take-up is slow. Let me give you just two examples. The Australian Financial Review on the 10th of August last year editorialised about supposed slow take-up rates. As recently as the 21st of March, The Australian claimed that slow take-up rates by consumers was a problem for NBN Co. But, Mr President, nothing could be further from the truth. Last December, I first compared NBN Co to take up against fibre networks around the world and previous technologies here in Australia. In Europe, after 3 years of fibre to the home being available, the average take-up is 21%. In Singapore, after 3.5 years, OpenNet's fibre to the home has a take-up rate of 20%. And after 6 years here in Australia of ADSL, the ABS found that in 2006 that it was a 28% take-up rate. Mr President, compare that to what we are seeing around Australia today. Take-up for the NBN is now over 37% in areas connected for just 6 months. 37% for just 6 months. Mr President, NBN Co's take-up rates here in Australia are world records. They are world records. Given the opportunity to connect to fibre, Mr President, Australians are signing up in droves. But those opposite, Mr President, 60,000 plus, 60,000 plus today, 60,000 plus.
Order, your time's expired. Now, when this silence will proceed. Senator Billy.
Thank you, Mr President. I thank the Minister for his answer and I ask, can the Minister provide detail on how take-up rates are changing as the NBN is rolling out?
Minister.
Mr President, the Senate estimates in May, NBN Co provided a full update on NBN's take-up rates. The first release sites of Kiama and Wollonga are still the areas with the highest take-up rates of 66% and 65% respectively. The more Australians see of the NBN, Mr President, the faster they are signing up. In one of the areas here in the ACT, Gungahlin, switched on just 6 months ago. Just 6 months ago. 52% of households have already chosen an NBN service. 6 months, 52%. In another part of Gungahlin, I'll get to that. In another part of the Gungahlin that was switched on just over 2 months ago, Mr President, 40% of premises. 2 months, 40% of premises have already elected to take an NBN service. And, Mr President, this is a
Time's expired.
Right across.
Time's expired. Senator Billy.
As a follow-on from that supplementary, I've got a second supplementary. Can the Minister update the Senate on what services customers are selecting on the NBN?
Minister.
Mr President, at the Joint Committee on the NBN in April, NBN Co noted that 36% of end users were selecting a speed of 50 megabits per second or more. But these people, Mr President, are clearly misguided, according to the Leader of the Opposition. Because at Mr Abbott's policy launch, this is what Mr Abbott told all Australians, and I quote, Mr President, we are absolutely confident 25 megs is going to be enough, more than enough for the average household. Well, just 3 years ago, Mr Abbott on national television couldn't even explain the difference between average and peak speeds. But now Mr Abbott claims, Mr President, to know exactly what Australian households need. 25 megs, that's all families need. And at the launch of the Digital Careers program last week, Mr President, I met 12-year-olds who knew
Order.
more about
Time.
IT than Tony Abbott.
Order. Time's expired.